Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at how to land this really challenging plane, the Pitts Special. This particular version is the 2S as opposed to the 1S, which is, in my opinion, even sketchier than this one, but hey, it's pretty fun either way. Now there's a lot of things that make this plane really challenging to land for all of us good flight sim folks and the people out in the real world as well. Among them, of course, is the fact the plane doesn't weigh much at all. As a matter of fact, if I bring up our weight balance real quick, you can see we're about, I don't know, 1,510 pounds, which is absolutely nothing. The other thing that makes this very challenging, of course, is the fact that we're a tail dragger airplane with low visibility over the nose. You can see very clearly here that we got a little bit of distance off the ground here, but we're also at this insane 10-degree angle. If I actually look out the window real quick at our little angle bar here, you can see just how much angle we need to actually hit the ground at. If we land at anything greater than 10 degrees, that means we'll strike the tail and we'll get a nasty lunk. If we strike at any less than 10 degrees, we're going to be doing a two-wheel landing. Now, a lot of planes you can do two-wheel landings perfectly safely, but this one's really challenging because that extra speed is simply not going to bleed off. Complicating for matters even further, of course, is that we're dealing with the flight simulator flight model for this airplane, which makes it a little extra challenging because of the fact that this aircraft's ground effect is extremely distinctive, something that the aircraft, while it does have ground effect in the real world, it's not nearly as bad as what is simulated in here, which kind of complicates things for us. So right now we're going to go ahead and get a little bit of altitude on this airplane. So we're going to kind of zip around the pattern rail here and walk you through it. And one of the things that makes things fun too for us is that's in miles per hour. That is not knots. Our approach speed on this aircraft is actually 75 miles per hour. When I was doing research on this one a little bit earlier, trying to get some ideas as to what we're going up against here. I love how easily this turns, by the way. That's so satisfying. And so they actually recommend 87 knots as your approach speed in this aircraft. So one of the things I did is I immediately ran out, did the conversion to 87 knots and tried it, and found that it didn't go well. I basically ran out of runway, which is exactly the kind of problem that you're going to have with this one because of the fact that the propeller, which in the real world, because it's constant speed, if I pulled the throttle back, it would slam me up against my harness, is not accurately simulated. So it makes it very challenging to simulate that drop off. Also making things very fun in this plane is its absurd sink rate. Now I pulled the throttle back all the way, and you can see we're coming through 120 miles per hour here. Like we're slowing down fast. But the reality is this plane is still completely level right now. I'm actually, if I look out my window real quick at the little angle, I was out the other window. If I actually look at this right now, you can see I'm traveling level, but I'm still at about 80 knots. Then it starts to sink. Now, if I pull the nose up just a little bit and try to keep myself from going to a stall here, you'll notice this plane rapidly loses speed, and then, of course, the sink rate spikes, and that gives you an idea of how sketchy this thing is. So I'm going to go ahead and bring ourselves around. Our approach speed is about 75 miles per hour here, and I'm just going to gently go ahead and take us around. We don't need any sudden movements or anything. One thing I want to do is I want to confirm that my RPM is all the way forward. You definitely want to make sure that's going to be there to help slow you down. But this is going to be my approach speed. Now, if you're like, oh, what's your current approach speed right now? Well, believe it or not, I'm sinking at 1,000 feet per minute right now, just as I'm starting to slow down. This thing just sinks forever and ever, and that's what makes it so challenging to go ahead and land here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around. You can see the runways are sitting right off our right here, and I'm going to come in slightly lower than usual. So again, I've got my speed about 75 miles per hour. You really got to keep your speed right on this thing. Because if you start slowing down, it gets really bumpy. If you start speeding up, you'll never touch the ground. It's just kind of the nature of the beast here. So off my right side, I can see the runway. It looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and turn. We're just a tiny bit high here. Be careful with this turn. Now, remember, we're a very low inertia plane. It does not take much effort to get it going, which is one of the reasons I love planes like this, especially in VR. They make you want to puke. There we go. And there is our runway. We are too high. Now, this too high nature, of course, is something we have to correct immediately. We cannot try to push the nose down later. It simply won't work. All right, so let's go ahead and hold that nose up. You can see it does not want to reject the speed, and we're completely zero throttle right now. There we go. So that's going to be about our 80 miles per hour. It's a little fast. And I'm just going to move my head up a little bit so we can find the runway here. Looks good. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold a 10-degree nose-up attitude right as we get over the runway. So 10 degrees looks like this. Just like that. And you can see just how high up your nose is. Now, if you feel the plane sink, just give it a quick tap of power and just let it sink. Let it sink. Just like that. And now you can see we're down on the ground without too much trouble. Now, when you go ahead and hit the brakes on this one, you have to remember that you have to hold the brakes gently. You do not want to do a face plant on that. Now, for those of you who are big VR pilots, you have a much easier job of this because you can fly it like this on the last 10 feet. And also you can look out the window like this and confirm how close you are to the ground there. So as you can see, coming in at the proper altitude and coming at the proper speed Makes it not bad. Just remember, and like you saw me do that, that's what happens when you talk instead of fly the plane. You have to be very gentle on power increases if you start to feel it start to sink on you. If it starts to get sinky, the slightest tap of power is going to be plenty for the purposes of getting you back on a good glide path there, so you don't hit down too hard because of how quick this thing slows down. But as you can see, there really wasn't a lot of drama. We had a little bit of drift there towards the end, but again, that was my own incompetence. But it gives you an idea of how much safer it is just coming in a little slower, just keeping that attitude up. Enjoy.